morning. Science Humanity class, 과학인문학. Today, the first class of the fifth week at the March 30th on Tuesday. So we are discussing the system and environment today. So please look at the first slide. In the baseball game, some hitter achieve the base hit, the safe base hit at a certain inning. So my question is, who make this hit? So we can answer the hitter, of course, did, or the pitcher and other player make this the safe hit and base hit, first hit and second base hit and third and even home run. So who make this situation of the base hit out of other probabilities? So hitter try to hit as precise as possible to make a safe hit and to send the ball so far away to get the enough base to win the game. But the field player, the team against the player against the certain team who belong to this hitter, try to catch the ball to get him or get her out of the game, the certain inning. So there are competition between players. There are a lot of the situations that could occur out of other contingency. So the probable the accident. So who decide that? I may say, or we may say, it is nature which determine this safe hit out of other possibilities. Of course, there are the physical law between the ball and bat, and some trajectory, the possible trajectory of the ball after being hit by the hitter to the field to get a safer place to make a hitter allow to go the enough base to win the game. So who decide the action? There are physical law, there are other contingency, sometimes the accidental occurrence, but it is nature we call. So what could be nature around us with this the society, similar to this the baseball game. So that's the topic of a system as opposed to environment. So it may be nature who decide a lot of actually occurrence, so including the baseball game, even soccer games. So you to pass the ball to the colleagues player, but other teams, so team players against your team try to catch the ball, to thieve the ball. So there are competitions, but there are a lot of other factors influence this the players of soccer, baseball, and other sports. So similarly to this sports game in society, so we through our words towards other persons, toward other society, toward the community, or we can change information between colleagues inside the campus, inside the class, inside the family, inside yourself as well. And then who actually decide what come up with a certain result? So who knows that? So we can anticipate, but it's difficult to completely understand and predict what could be happen in even near future. in the future. So we may say it is nature, which decide all the things that happen in the future, even at present. But for sure, we have environment that occur already in the past. So when deciding, I already mentioned this one a few weeks ago, when we decide certain selections to convert those selections into actions with communication in a society to achieve a certain goal with a purpose. So we use our behavior, the selections done in the past as an environment. Environment is already revealed, but system is being operated right now at present, and to announce even future. So system environments is they're much different in definition between they will occur, come up with a certain possibility, but already done, already achieved, shown us with a certain rigidity. Okay, that's the difference in definition between a system environment. But combining these systems and environment, we have a nature. In nature, we have a physics, biology, the human psychology, human ethic and morality. A lot of things come together to make, in turn, to return a lot of things we make back to nature as well. But nature comprises of system and environment. So we communicated inside our community, okay, to form certain order we already discussed against the frame types of rigidity, regulation, for example, law, for example, moral, for example. So we break those customs such as law, regulations, sometimes moral, enforce us to do something in a rigid way, in a fixed way. Otherwise, we addicted to, or we confined very strongly to make our freedom as small as possible. That's why we would like to form a new order out of our communication in a society with the community. So that's the we call the societal communications. So in this week, we discuss and we are trying to understand what the system is and what environmental is, and environmental affect the system, and system affect the environment as well in a time scale. So that's the main topic of this the class this week. So when you throw the ball to other persons like this cartoon, so suppose we have 10 persons. So we catch the ball thrown from our colleagues. I decided who I would like to throw to and throw the ball. And so we repeated this the communication with the ball. So ball could be informations, could be money, could be words we use everyday base. So then we exchange information, we exchange goods and service with the use of words and money. And then we form a certain order between us in a community, in a society. Then we have order, and then we use this order to design our present and the future shape to complete us in our life, for our life, to design and to plan our future. So that's what we call system, right? So a system can be formed Otherwise, we follow always controlled by the certain regulated the customs from the society, from the government, from the country. And then instead of those the flame types of the customs and the law regulations, we would like to form our own order, actually. So that's the system and the environment. Okay, so to be able to fully understand what the communication is in terms of and with respect to the system and environment, so let's extend our discussion. We've been trying to reveal to ourselves in terms of fact and truth. So there are the 4 different types of truth telling. So truth we already discussed against the fact. So we have to have a certain belief to reveal what is the hidden, what is seen, the behind the fact. So we believe certain things, and to deliver this the fact that we believe to other persons, so we have to select the truth. So there are 4 different types of truth telling. So if you would like to tell the truth, so you have to select the one out of these 4. The first one, the profit types of truth. Profit types of the truth telling. So profit, reveal and show and shed lights on what is hidden from the human. So for example, religious persons, so they would like to predict what our future is. So under the pandemic situations. So even scientists use these profit types of truth telling on the crisis, on the disaster, on the danger from the environment, with the climate emergencies or earthquake or global warming situations or inequality. So the extremely bad situation in inequality between the person under the certain economic situation, economic system. So people would like to predict what could happen in our future society. So this the first type is profit types of that. The second types of truth telling is with the wisdom. Sage, the wise person, would like to deliver their wisdom to us in the name of their own theory, in the name of their own the wisdoms. They tells the being some kind of existence, sometimes beyond existence. There are prior types of being of the world, of the human, and actually things, including human and the world. Okay, so they deliver wisdom to us. So for example, novelist or filmmaker or the philosopher. So they recognize what could be some kind of wisdom to operate our world. So they deliver their wisdom to us as a truth. So they tell the truth for us to save the world, to save to escape the humankind out of disaster types of catastrophic situations. So that's the second types of the truth telling. Third types is like a teacher and professor who has received the knowledge from the ancestor, from the pallbearer, and pass it to the successor. Okay. Okay. So Zoom is okay right now? Yes? Can you hear?
Yes, Professor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So the third one is a professor, like that. So with regard to the knowledge. So like me in university or high schools, teachers and professors learn the knowledge and transfer this knowledge to students and other colleagues and to the society. So that's the tradition of testimony of the knowledge and concept. Okay, so that's the third type of truth telling. So lastly, we have a Parencia types of testimony. So I'd like to emphasize today in this class, so to discuss about the further extend this truth telling the topic into the system and the environment. So the Parencia types of a truth teller wants to establish a bond of shared knowledge and able to filtration in the domain of knowledge. They would like to get together, so try to find out some kind of a connection between the knowledge, between the people, how we transfer or communicate the knowledge in terms of wisdom, in terms of other secret, in terms of a concept behind the fact. So the pressure times of the truth teller try to reveal truth, actually the hidden in the shadow side, extract those to share with the other person. So for example, what could be the example of this precious? So they have enough courage to take a risk out of this one. So for example, Myanmar, that's the disaster types of terrible situation right now. We've been told from media, from the SNS, we know the situations. In the Myanmar, some courageous persons. So they are the Parencia types of truth teller. So they would like to take a risk in exchange of truth telling to reveal or to let the situation in Myanmar be known toward the world, so that they can support from outside of the world. So they take a risk. Okay. So similarly, inside even Korea, so if you feel in exchange of the sacrifice, you would like to take a risk in exchange of delivering truth to other person, okay, to save the earth sometime. Not much bigger, we can take a small risk in everyday lives to deliver truth to other persons, okay, to change our order. So you have to take a risk in exchange of your sacrifice. Whatever it is small, sometimes it could be very big, sometimes in exchange of our life, like in the Myanmar. So that's the Parencia types of truth telling. Okay, so then we have to have some kind of a bond. We have to have some kind of connections. We have to find some kind of the secret connectivity between our information, between our words, between our customs, between our behavior. So we would like to connect all the behavior, all the words occurring in our society to extract some kind of a truth. So then we have to sometime to take a risk. So that's the Porantia types of truth teller. With that, the Michel Foucault, in his book of College of Truth, published in 2011, he mentioned these Porantia types of the truth telling. Okay, so he said that in his book, page 14. So the last sentence, Porantia is not a skill. Porantia should be regarded as a modality of truth telling rather than a technique like a rhetoric. Okay, so that's the message from the Michel Foucault to tell the truth as a Porantiest, truth teller. So the prophet truth teller, wisdom, sage types of truth teller, professor types of truth teller are also very important to make a communication occur in a sound ways, in an effective ways, but sometimes we have to face a risk in exchange of our the sacrifice to find out some kind of a connect, some kind of a bond between our knowledge in a community inside our society to make our communication occur in a safe, in a sound ways. Okay. So first, the participations. Give an example of occupation, occupation or job corresponding to Porantia. So in a society, in a modern society, so we have a lot of job right now, especially under digital era, digital times. So you name it, and then a lot of actually possibility for us to tell truth as a Porantiest. Please give me your example you'd like to believe to be of occupation or job on the digital society corresponding to Porantiest. Okay, please, if you're street smart. So the next topic I'd like to discuss with you is social physics. So out of many different the potential to tell the truth, one of those is a Porantiest types of test teller, truth teller. So we take our risk. We understand what the risk is against the danger and the disaster. So we took risk to change our world and to do our responsibility for the people, but who may be our family and colleagues and the peers. So in a society, we have this one for better communications to improve our society toward the better world, toward the new society as well. So there are one book, very good book. I suggest you or recommend you to read sometime if you have time, if you have interest in it. That the title, The Social Physics, written by Professor Alex Pennant from MIT. He said that a lot of important knowledge about the social physics. I'm not sure why he used physics to the social society. There are interesting the knowledge with sensing city science, data-rich society, because we are living in right now is a modern society with the digital society right now. So please look at this the table. Okay, table. X-axis, horizontal axis is the rate of idea flow. Rate of idea flow. Y-axis is a return on investment. Return on investment. So our x-axis is actually with a number of 50 and 100. 50 means one-way communication. One-way communication. If you send your information to other person, never return. Okay, so that's the 50. So rate of idea flow, you make one idea and deliver to other person, but they never reply to you, back to you. So that's the isolated situation, absolutely isolated situation with a number of 50 of a rate of idea flow. As opposed to these isolated situations and circumstances, you can be in an echo chamber. So please imagine you are located in a box of a confined chamber with echo. So you deliver, you send the one information. So information hit the wall and back to you and back to some with anger, and another hit to the wall and the bounce back to another one and another one back to back, and information actually repeat and circulate forever. So we call this situation as the overconfidence situations, as in our SNS. So you put the your priority with the 좋아요, with the love, with the liking, without any noticement, without looking into the deeply. So information delivered to other person from your priority clicking inside your SNS, and then the back to you and the send back to other persons and back to back. So the forever they circulated with the overconfidence over certain information. Information is circulated forever. So that's the we put the 100 with the number to that situations. So we have a situations isolated. We have a situation as forever circulated between 50 and 100. So you can draw. You understand these situations. What could be our outcomes? So can be obtained out of these situations. From isolated situations, we have one. Okay, so we can get one out of these situations. We can get some kind of value out of these situations, even from isolated situations. But please look at the rate of at a situation outcome from the situation at the rate of idea flow of the 75. What do you mean the 75? Something between isolated and circulated situations. So information you send, some actually return to you and back to another colleagues, back to another the peers, and send back to you, and somehow with a limited time. And then we have maximum outcome out of this the communication with the information circulated with the limited time, with the limited the probability. But beyond this point, beyond maximum point, outcome rate actually decrease. Okay, so what tells us this graph publication from the MIT, they mention centering around the Professor Alexander Pentland. If you send that information, if you exchange information with our colleagues, with our peers, and the information circulate to limited time and a certain point, and then we maximize our outcome, the value harvesting from this situation. But we circulate more Okay, so we call this a situation with overconfidence, information circulating situations, sometimes with the fad and bubble. As in a stock market, we have a jirashi, right? So some rumors without fact, without truth. So that then we actually reduce our benefit, outcome from our communications, reduce our efficiencies to be able to get the benefit and the value out of our communication with the information. So then we have extreme two different cases. One, isolated. The other one, echo chamber. So we have to select something between to maximize efficiencies to be able to harvest our outcome from our information, from our communication with the information. So the MIT experiments were done based on eToro, online financial trading platforms. So of course we have to believe this could be applied to our general society, general associated communication, but we can refer to this the communications scenario. Okay, social physics in this book, the propose another interesting theories with engagement versus explanations. Engagement, explanation. Please look at this cartoon from the book. The first, engagement. Engagement is engagement in French. English name is engagement. We have our colleagues. We have our community. Inside the community, inside the group, inside the circle, inside the 동아리, we have a member. So we have an engagement with our family. With that, we have a member of a family member. If you have a circle, 동아리, then you have member of a circle, member of a 동아리. We have a community of UNIST. We have a member of a UNIST faculty and students. If we have the Korea, the country types of the community, we have a member of the people of the Korea. If you are the US people, US the citizens, so you take those the country as the community and social, the society, then you have a member of the country. Okay, between member, we can have engagement. Between family member, between UNIST member, between your circle member, we are exchanging as engagement. So how many actually community, how many group you have in which you can exchange communication, exchange information in the forms of engagement? How many members actually you can handle to achieve this engagement? Sometimes we have a 10 is too high to be controlled by myself. To communicate with the 10 persons, sometimes it is not easy at all. But even 100%, sometimes we can handle to do communication with information under the certain circumstances. With that, we achieve engagement between 100%. So it's up to the situations we are placed in. Sometimes we successfully engage, but sometimes not be able to be engaged in those situations with the community we are going to involve. And engagement group can be can interact with the other engagement group. So we call that one explorations. So a UNIST can explore to extend those connections to KAIST, extend those relation to Ulsan University, the Harvard University, Oxford, Vietnam, University of Vietnam, University of Myanmar. So we expand our relations with the center of our engaged community into other engagement group. Okay, that's the example of explorations. So there are too many the persons for us to be willing to communicate with. Then we divide the subgroup. So you involve the one group as where you are doing engagement types of communication with the information, and then you extend your willing to be involved into other group in the forms of explorations. So that's the difference between engagement and explorations. Okay, so you understand. So we have engagement and explorations. So in the book of social physics, the Professor Alex Penland actually took an example of a star performer networker, star producer, through the Bell star study. Okay, so if he took an example of this star performers, star actors, star networkers, there are one very important fact to be found between these types of the star who are succeeded in our society through social physics, especially with the communications. Okay, especially with the digital engagement. So they used very relatively small community to handle, as engagement, and then extend their engagement into other explorations. They invest a lot of money sometimes to extend those engagement types of involvement into explorations. But they are careful to extend engagement to big, so that they cannot handle those engagement types of a member because of too many number in there. With that, they cannot actually do effective communication with information. So they selected the trusty peers. They selected the trusty peers, okay, within their capability to handle with information for effective communications. Okay. So they selected the peers not based on class, but based on the peers. The class means they never selected colleagues for their communication based on income, based on age, based on gender, based on levels of skill, based on education and products and the means. But they focus on when selecting their peers in the context of particular situations. If they get involved, being involved in education systems, they would like to consider educational context, educational emphasis, and they move to other group under the different situation. For example, stock investment, for example, and they selected their peers differently from situation under the education based on context of economic situations. You know what I'm saying? And if they move to the sports, the peers, and then they use context from the essence of the sports, they never mingle. They have the confused between the two different groups. So they have each separated entities of this engagement group. Okay, with this engagement, there are limited number of persons, at the maximum of 20%, for example, 30%, not beyond the 40 and 100. And then they use this engagement group to other engagement group. We call that as what? Exploration. Okay, they operate their situations and communication group in this way to succeed, to be star under especially digital society. Okay, so please think of your trusted peers. How many trusted peers? How many trusted at the base? How many engagement group based on this trusted peers? Of course, we have internet right now, the free internet, of course, in a society a certain way. I think you're using SNS, of course, but how many trusted peers you have? Peers means the same levels without regard to classes like gender and educations and economic levels, but you can trust as your peer. In Greek, etymologically, the peer means the same. So you feel the sameness, you feel the same levels of the knowledge sometimes, of the ethics, the similar ethic, the same ethic with your peers. That's what you call the person you would like to communicate with information as peers, because you feel sameness, similarity between friends, between the family and the component member. Okay, so the second participations. So we are discussing right now about the trusted peers to do engagement, to communicate with the information. And then we can expand this one and extend this one into other engagement group, okay, to scale up our communication and the contribution to our society. Okay, the second participation is give me your example of a trusted group. Name it, your trusted group, and how many persons in it, in your trusted group. Please, in the app of Street Smart. Okay, the same book as well, by Professor Penland in 2014. So he said that there could be 3 criteria for emerging hyper-network society. We are living in hyper-network society, right? Beyond super-networked society. We are living in hyper-networked society. So we need communications. By doing only SNS, so we are doing a lot of communication seemingly, but actually not. So we already know. So we have to form the small engagement types of the communication, and then we can extend this one to other engagement group, then extend and scale up our communications. So there are 3 criteria to success in our communication under the hyper-network society. So number one, he said, we have social efficiencies. The second one, operational efficiencies. And third, resilience. So to achieve these three, our society can be successful with the communication to achieve a certain success, a certain purpose and goal under hyper-network society. The first, the social efficiency, refer to the optimal distribution of resources through society. Okay, not only the physical resources, but more likely idea, informations, and knowledge-based one. So feeling and the affections, the healing and conceal, condolence, and many different types of that. So we would like to dispute and share our feelings, share our resources from our inner world to other persons, to conceal and to heal, okay, to exchange our affections, especially under pandemic situations. That's the social efficiencies. We agree that the social distancing is a terrible situation. So naming is different. The naming is also wrong. Okay, so that's not the social distancing. That's the physical distancing, right? So WHO already corrected. So social distancing on the pandemic is not the right terminology to be used. Instead of we increase our physical distancing, but we have to reduce social association, social relations. That's the relate to closely social efficiencies. Social efficiencies so can be done, can be achieved by our communication with information, including idea, affection, feeling of concealment, the healing, the mutual healing, for examples. That's the for our society, which is still communication with information, not only physical, but also the mentality, mentors, or any other forms as well. Okay, the process behind this social efficiencies and occur through the working of invisible hands. So a long time ago, Adam Smith mentioned invisible hand to operate our economic system, but Alex Pentman from MIT in his research, so invisible hand once again, play role to work for our social efficiencies. Secondary are operational efficiencies. Operational efficiencies that actually relate to the physical resources. So for example, we build infrastructure. Okay, we build infrastructure, then we fix or guide our communication into a certain way. If we build the new airport in Gadokdo and Jeju, for example, then we guide our communication in a certain way, right? So without new airport, with new airport, our communications, our behavior, our selections is going to be different, absolutely. So infrastructure is more likely from the physical aspect. We guide, we control our future. So the social efficiency is very different from operational efficiencies. Social efficiencies from our what? Communication, flexible communications, based on invisible hand, especially with immaterial, even with material, but very flexible way. But, however, operational efficiency for a society, we still do communication, we still do behave, but but in a very rigid way, guided way, especially from infrastructure, as in airport and highway, metropolitan city, wastewater treatment systems. So everything, so there is no other options to be selected from us. So infrastructure is that way. So that's the we refer to operational efficiencies. And then we had a very carefully decide to build which infrastructure for our society. That's the importance and the significance of operational efficiencies. Lastly, we have to have resilience. Out of a disaster, out of an earthquake, out of a climate emergency, we have to recover in a long-term stable way. So that's the resilience. Sometimes we cannot help some danger from the nature, from the environment, from the climate, from the sea, from the universe, but we have to recover in a safe way, in a flexible way, in an effective way, in a long-term base. So we define those as resilience of our society. So we have to achieve resilient types of capability, and also we have to consider both social and operational efficiencies. Okay, so with that, we have to consider more the network of individual interactions instead of a market. Okay, so I to put the original sentence from the reference book of the social physics. So in here, please read this one. This one. Okay, any questions about social physics? On Thursday, we extend our discussion into communication theory with the topic of a program and code. With the program and code, I'm not sure you understand the codes and program, but we discuss this one, exchange our discourse and discussion as well. But today we discuss truth-telling types of connections. Sometimes we have to take a risk out of other risky situation, danger and responsibility, especially the sacrifice. Then we study social physics. So there are the huge importance and significance in our engagement types of communication. Relatively small, the member of the group, and then we extend to higher levels of the communications. With that, even with SNS, even with the communication tool under the technology of digital, then we have to rely on network of the individual interaction instead of a market and the classes. Of course, a class is kind of segregations. So if you have a very good talent to create a lot of idea, and then you disregard the other possibility to communicate with other persons, you believe they are not valuable to you, then you restrict the opportunity and the probability to be exposed to better situations from your segregations. So you alienate, you isolate yourself from society. That's not the good situation at all. And then you buy or invest a certain wealth and service out of the market to the market as well. And then rather than those situations, you stick to your communication between your engagement, especially with a small scale. And then that's the way to be successful person, to contribute to our society. Instead of stick to market, instead of stick to investing market, stock market, or indulge in certain classes like gender, talents, wealth, and apartment investment. Okay, so that's the better way to be engaged in a small engagement group with information for better communications. That's the message from Alex Pennet, between isolated or echo chamber. So you selected a certain levels of communication with information, and then you maximize outcome out of this communication with a relatively small engagement. But as many as engagement group involved, it's better to have more engagement group, but limited number of component and member with one single engagement group. Okay, that's the conclusion of this book of social physics. Questions? Any questions?